Welcome back, everybody, to the first North America Arena online qualifiers. My name, once again, is Josh Allen, a.k.a. Laura, joined by none other than Jared Colston, a.k.a. VHel. That was an amazing round of 8. That was a really, really good round of 8.
I'm really glad that we have such a solid tournament with so many good teams.
Yeah.
And we saw some really close matches during that round of 8, which means we now move on to the round of 4, which means since this is single elimination, you know, all the teams that did lose today are going to be knocked out, but they will have plenty of other chances this summer to qualify with our 2 other qualifying cups.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, the next one of those will be on leading up to August 1st, which we will again be broadcasting the round of 8 for that. And then the other one, I believe, is on August 15th, will be the next broadcast after that. In the second cup, there will be 2 teams that can qualify, and in the third cup, there will be 3 teams that can qualify. So lots of chances. If your favorite team's been knocked out, don't worry. They still have plenty of opportunity to get back into this and have that shot at America's Regionals later this year. But focusing a little bit on the teams that have made it through thus far, let's actually take a look at the brackets really quick. And we can see that Shake It Off went 2-0 against Nihao in the first round, as well as Is Butter a Carb going 2-1 against GeoML, and that will be the next match that we see is Shake It Off versus Is Butter a Carb. And then in the lower half of the bracket, Luminosity getting a 2-0 against Tony Del Bronx, and Hands Up in an amazing 2-1 series against Tempo Storm. That was an absolutely ridiculous set of matches. That could have been a finals, basically, that set of matches. And so those 2 teams will be facing off after this next match, next round in the round of 4, the semifinals here at the North American Online Qualifier Cup.
Yeah, and one of the things to note is if you were taking a look at the bracket of the whole tournament, the way we seeded these teams, actually, it wasn't random seed, which sometimes you'll see at these kind of tournaments, since we did have a certain current rating needed from all people, we could use those to seed. So we took the out of the top 3 players from the team, so we dropped the lowest, and then we averaged their current rating at a glimpse of the ladder, which was a couple days ago, and then we seeded everyone from there. So everyone who did well on the online ladder had a good spot for this, which is awesome. It really proves that online ladder play does matter in these types of situations.
Absolutely. So we will now be going in very shortly to this next matchup, which will be between teams Shake It Off and Is Butter a Carb. And this list of players, as the match is loading here right now, just looking at the unit frames, these names are amazing. We've got on the left side, as Team Shake It Up, we've got Majidin, we've got Asber, and we've got Faloria. These guys have been absolutely dominating in the GCD TV tournaments recently, so it's really, really awesome seeing them play here today. Going up against Team Is Butter a Carb, which is Rosita Jones, Chanimal, and Gorecki. And we didn't actually see Gorecki play in their match earlier. He's a well-known, extremely solid multi-classer. And so seeing him now playing Restoration Shaman with this MLS composition, I'm actually really, really excited to see how this works out.
Yeah, and right out of the gates, we'll follow Asper from the start, since normally Moonkins are well known for their initiation. You know, they're the player that's going to jump right in there with their initial Celestial alignment cooldowns, and with multiple charges of Star Surge right from the start. You know, we'll see what they can do right out of the gate. Looks like he is going to be dotting up targets, you know, just getting those blankets, getting a Star Surge here and there out, getting some roots down to try to get another proc from there too, you know, using those set bonuses to his advantage, as it's going to be a lot of this at the start where the 2 casters from either team are going to be facing off, just trying to pump a little bit of kind of that free damage from the start.
Yeah, definitely just sort of facing off in the middle here.
Oh, but look at Rosita, right from the start, gets root beamed as he's out of that very, very quickly. As you can see, Gorecki's just sitting way in the back, but he's going to have to push up to heal Rosita, kind of putting himself out of position, and immediately gets steeped when he pokes his face out. No follow-up CC, however. Tosses that stream down, just a little bit more healing as Rosita is forced a little bit in defensive position. And look at that, uses the Icy Veins there fading, you know, wasn't able to use too much of that as Chanimal's doing a little bit of damage. It looks like they're dotting up and trying to kill the water elemental right now, as we have Frostjaw, onto Majidin right there, stopping a little bit of the cast, you know, silencing him. But look at how defensive these teams are playing. They do have Flora in a in a CC right now, but he's back onto that pillar. He's doing really a great job of staying away from his 2 casters. That's extremely important in this setup.
Yeah, definitely. Actually having to use that Avenging Wrath and the Execution Sentence, both of which are on a relatively short cooldown, so not too big of a deal that he has to use those this early. And this has been very back and forth so far, actually. First is Butter a Carb had to pull back, then Shake It Off had to pull back. Now is Butter a Carb maybe looking like they might want to pull back here very shortly, but no, they do actually manage to land a full polymorph onto Feloria, starting to put a little bit of damage into Majidin here. Asper into that Fear very briefly is going to be broken, but Majidin taking lots of damage right now, dipping super low, has not yet blocked, and actually managing to get out of that without having to use his block. So very, very good.
No, Wes Asper really helped him right there with the Cyclone onto Rosita. Let him stay offensive, but look at that damage coming out onto Rosita. Ooh. Wow, having to block right there, and that was those Star Surges coming out from Asper. They did a great job of turning that back around. The momentum completely swapped.
Yeah, and that's one of the dangers of using I was talking about this earlier, but that's one of the dangers of focusing on the balanced druid as your kill target, is that whole time you're going to be feeding him instant cast procs, and they're going to be able to turn that around and suddenly just pump a whole bunch of damage into you when you least expect it. So I would expect them to be focusing on Majidin a lot more. Obviously, they did get him down relatively low earlier, but they need to be careful about really putting too much damage into Asper, especially this early on in the match. But as we continue here, Feloria actually going into that deep freeze, then turning around and getting a deep freeze onto Gorecki instead. Rosita Jones once again maybe in a little bit of trouble here, dipping down to 30% health. A big heal lands on Rosita Jones. He's going to get topped back off in a hurry, and now Majidin might be in some trouble. He does get that Execution Sentence, is getting over here out of line of sight. The Save by the Light proc as well is going to give him a lot of additional health, but Feloria having to use his Avenging Wrath, and Rosita Jones once again having to use his second Ice Block. That's 2 Ice Blocks already out of Rosita Jones. He doesn't have another one for 2 minutes.
Yeah, this isn't good. We see a deep onto Feloria, and it looks like he is in a safe position at this point. Look at that, Rosita Jones having to zoom around that pillar because he knows the CC is coming up onto Gorecki. The Frostdraw is going to follow up. It looks like Gorecki was in the back because that Windwalk Totem was down. That was a great preemptive drop on that. Link coming down too, helping him out on the healing a little bit because Gorecki is getting a little bit low himself. But look at the difference in how offensive the team Shake It Off is playing all of a sudden. They know that they have those 2 blocks out, so Rosita can't play as offensive, so they feel like they're able to push up in this. And like the positioning difference is completely different from the start.
Yeah, definitely. And now with that Spirit Link used as well, Gorecki is going to be a little bit in trouble in terms of his overall defensive cooldowns available. He does still have 1 Spirit Link available, but compare that to Feloria's sheer number of cooldowns. He's got almost everything up, and he'll have that Avenging Wrath again in another 20 seconds as Rosita Jones once again having to get out of there, but he's still under a lot of trouble, taking so much damage. A huge Spirit Link comes down that's going to keep him alive through that, but just barely.
No, it did, and Gorecki immediately gets out of there, knows that he can't stay in there, as looks like the Icy Veins is going to fade as Asper is down to half right now. That gets a huge heal from Feloria because those wings are up, as Majidin is going to try to stay offensive. Also, it's really important for this team to constantly be putting out the pressure because they are facing that kind of ticking time bomb of the Affliction Warlock dots.
Yeah, definitely. Asper taking a bunch of damage here yet again. Like I said earlier, they might want to be a little bit careful about that, but that doesn't mean it's a bad idea to never attack the Balanced Druid. You do actually want to kill him at some point. But now Rosita Jones, once again, finding himself caught out here in the middle and might be in a little bit of trouble. He's going to start to back off just a little bit, get himself within blink range of the pillar so that he can get out of there in a hurry if he needs to, but he's still just standing here and having a sort of a caster battle out here in the center, taking a lot of damage, and he is going to go ahead and get back over here, but Gorecki caught in that root beam into the polymorph as well. He's going to have to trinket that, but immediately gets caught in the deep freeze as well. Rosita Jones could be in some trouble if they manage to land some follow-up CC, but no, Gorecki is going to be totally fine and be able to heal back up a little bit again. And actually look at Feloria's mana. He's already down to 18%. The amount of damage, he's been able to heal through everything that Isbutter Carb is able to do, but he's spent so much mana to do it, and we're only at 4% dampening.
Yeah, if you can see, Asper's taking a bunch of damage. We did have a Save by the Light proc onto Majidin right there, which was mostly Rosita Jones damage. The big thing to note in that CC setup, Chanimals did a great job of stopping the follow-up poly, which really let his team turn the tables on to Shake It Off. And Rosita Jones taking a bunch of damage right there. Gorecki in a lot of CC, though. There was a Frostjaw followed by the Cyclone right there as they can follow. Let's see if they can follow anything up, but Asper pushing way deep right now as the wings having to come out down to 60k. Huge heal coming out with the Aura Mastery also. Flora knowing that the CC is coming onto him as he's sitting in a poly right now, but like you said, 11k health, and look at Gorecki's mana. completely
definitely.
full.
Yeah, Gorecki has got to be feeling pretty confident at this point that he's going to be able to keep his team alive. Majidin dipping pretty low here, going to have to use his first ice block of the match, I believe. Does have that cold snap available, so he will be able to use another one. Asper now into that deep freeze, and that Comet Storm landing on him. Asper actually taking a ton of damage right now. He will get that execution sentence to start to heal him back up, and he's pulling out those treants that are going to start putting a little bit of extra damage into Chanimal, actually, but Chanimal gets caught into that that Cyclone for a second, going to slow down that damage for just a second, which Shake It Off desperately needs to do at this point. They need to start playing maybe a little bit more defensively because their offensive pushes aren't really doing it for them, and the number of cooldowns available for Is Butter a Carb is actually pretty high at this point.
Yeah, look at the damage coming out onto Majidin, who has to run out of there, and Floria back up to 65,000 mana, but the deep coming in onto him. Let's see if they can get any CC. Looks like a Fear and a Sheep on top of it, but that does force the block, so that overlap actually wasn't as bad as it could have been. The Fear following that with Absur, and plus a Poly onto Floria, so they're going to have a short Fear left, and that's it. So Floria is going to be able to just constantly heal. So a little mess up with that CC overlap, but it doesn't seem like it put them at too bad of a disadvantage. Full Sheep onto Majidin right there, just trying to stop a little of the offensive, because look at how they're pushing up right now. It's smart that they're identifying this and choosing to swap the CC onto the DPS at that point. Yeah,
and look at Floria's mana again. He's managed to get a ton of mana back. I don't know if he actually drank or if he's just not had to do as much healing and been able to regen that. But he's back up at 40% mana, which is very, very important. He was down almost completely out of mana just a few seconds ago. Now Asper taking a bit of damage, stuck out here in the middle, trying to get a Cyclone off. I don't believe he actually was able to land that. If he did, it's already gone. Now Floria into that full polymorph. He does have both his bubble and his trinket available, so he's just going to go ahead and sit through that. No, excuse me, he actually is going to go ahead and use his bubble to be able to keep his teammates alive, as there was a lot of damage going in onto Majidin there for just a second. He actually used his Avenging Wrath as well. Now stuck into the half polymorph. Chanimal with that Dark Soul active, just pumping out a ton of damage right now. Rosita Jones taking a bit of damage, going to be in some trouble here. Going to go ahead and use his Ice Block. He did have his Cold Snap available though, so there is still one more Ice Block remaining for Rosita Jones.
Yeah, that was a great job of, he was constantly casting the Frost Jaw onto Floria until he was in line of sight, followed it up with a Deep, and was going to go for a Poly and some damage, but Absur saw that this was coming and decided to switch it back on him, and doing enough damage to force Rosita Jones back defensively and ultimately into that block. So that was a great play by Shake It Off.
Definitely. So now both teams are actually taking an opportunity to sort of rest up a little bit before they start pushing back in here. Chanimal does have that Soul Burn Haunt effect active, so any damage he can put out right now is going to be doing a lot of damage, and we can actually see him soul swapping around to spread his dots a little bit, just trying to keep as much constant pressure going out as possible. He doesn't have anything on Floria at the moment, but both Asper and Majidin are taking quite a bit of damage from those damage over time effects, and now actually a full row of dots just going back up on Asper again. Majidin, though, dipping really super low there. Saved by the Light does proc. He gets the execution sentence as well. Floria's wings have just come off of cooldown. We'll have to see if they can force it out, but Rosita Jones dipping to super low health.
Asper pushed way in at that point to get that Root Beam, followed by a Cyclone onto Gorecki. So this is not looking good for the team of Is Butter a Carb, because no more blocks available for Rosita Jones for 3 minutes. But look at how offensive he's playing, even though he knows that he is in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and Gorecki now using his Ascendance, going to be able to do a little bit of healing from behind that pillar over there. You can actually kind of heal yourself, and it will splash to other people when you're using that Ascendance. It's a really, really cool move that Resto Shaman are able to do, and he does have both of his Spirit Link totems available once again. So we'll see if they're going to be able to force those out of him. But Rosita Jones once again being sort of the target of choice for Team Shake It Off. He's going to go ahead and blink back over here by his healer and play it a little bit more defensively. As Majidin caught into a polymorph, another polymorph on top of that, into a full fear as well. They're trying to get him out of position over here so they can start pumping some damage into him, and it looks like they're going to be able to do a little bit of that, but no, now they're swapping over onto Asper.
That's Celestial Alignment. Here comes the timers out of Absur, and I like that Rosita Jones immediately identified that, but look at how offensive he's playing. He's going right in on to Rosita Jones with the links coming down. I think he missed that the Solar Beam right there, but it didn't matter. Just so much damage coming out. Wow, that was an incredible amount of burst. You saw the setup with that Celestial Alignment. He went in onto it. We saw Rosita Jones immediately identifying that this is coming.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, but with no ice blocks, there wasn't much he could do at that point. There was the Spirit Link that went down from Gorecki, but that was just entirely too much damage, and the Spirit Link totem got killed right away.
138k Star Surge. And with 3 of those available, like that's exactly why Rosita Jones, you saw him get out of there the second he saw that cooldown hit. But again, Rosita Jones tossing out those 92k Ice Novas during there. So overall, just lots of damage coming out from both teams. I think extremely well played by both teams. Shake It Off just realizing that one moment that they could capitalize on the fact that they had the CC, or they had the cooldowns available, and Rosita Jones didn't have any ice blocks left.
Yep, definitely. So that is going to put Team Shake It Off up 1-0 against Is Butter a Carb in this series. That means that Is Butter a Carb will be able to choose their map, at which point Team Shake It Off will choose their composition if they want to make any comp swaps, as we are allowing that 4-player roster in this tournament. And then after Team Shake It Off has chosen their composition, Is Butter a Carb will have the opportunity to make any comp swaps they want to do as well, and sort of go into this next match with a little bit of an extra edge to be able to try and come back and take themselves, because they're going to need to win 2 games in a row if they want to win this series now.
Well, actually,
it is a best
we're
of 5.
now in the round of 4, so that it is a best of 5. So they have a little bit of breathing room for this, but still, each map completely matters at this point.
Yep, definitely. So we will be finding out here very, very shortly what map they want to choose, as well as if they are making any team compositions. But yes, like you said, it is a best of 5 now, so whichever team wins 3 matches first will be the one that is actually moving on in this series. So I think we're going to see a lot more back and forth series now at this point, now that we're moving on into the round of 4, and especially since we're now seeing so many really, really top-tier teams actually moving into this.
So it sounds like we do have our map choice from these players. It is going to be Dalaran Sewers that we're going to be heading into, and it looks like they've locked in their comps also, and it looks like I don't think we're seeing any changes in here.
Nope. Still Balanced Druid, Holy Paladin, Frost Mage for Shake It Off, and Is Butter a Carb once again going with that Frost Mage, Affliction Warlock, and Resto Shaman, that MLS composition that we haven't actually seen too many people playing in Warlord Season 2, but I feel like Is Butter a Carb, they played it really, really well in that matchup. A lot of people have been favoring the Holy Paladins recently just because of the sheer number of defensive cooldowns that Holy Paladins have available. But I've heard a lot of top Resto Shaman saying that they feel that Resto Shaman are just really, really good in the longer matches that start to get into dampen.
Yeah, and just the few additional caster option. I do like the fact that they have that Windwalk Totem if needed, kind of preempting the Root Beam coming out. But there were a lot of great beams coming out of Asper with setting him up with his treants. So you have that instant off GCD Root plus the Solar Beam immediately after. And we saw a couple of those. Gorecki did a great job on as many of them as he could, but unfortunately towards the end kind of fell victim to that CC plus the massive amount of damage. Again, let's see how this team, Is Butter a Carb, can handle Shake It Off. They really need to come back from this 1-0 deficit, and this might be the map that they could do it on. Yeah,
definitely. It can be a very, very interesting map for these caster compositions because I don't feel that there's a heavy favor in either direction, but in this Warlords of Draenor, with the shorter range on the Demonic Gateway, I think it helps.
Wow.
And wow, Rosita already having to use an Ice Block just from
the
sheer
solar
damage.
Beam. Yeah, it was a Solar Beam onto Gorecki that forced it because he knows that with those 3 charges of Star Surges, you know, hitting up to 130k. But look at that, turning it right back onto Alistair, already getting a bubble out of Floria. So this was a good exchange right here. We did have a block force on Rosita right at the beginning, but also we have wings and bubble on the other hand.
Yeah, definitely. And Gorecki has not had to use any of his cooldowns just yet. We see Rosita actually trinketing. I'm not sure what it was he trinketed there just a second ago, but he did use his trinket. And of course, he used his Ice Block before. He still has 1 Ice Block available, but Rosita Jones starting to take a little bit of damage here. Gorecki into that Deep Freeze, possibly trying to follow something up onto that, and they were not able to get any additional CC onto Gorecki there, so he's just going to be able to continue healing. And actually now Is Butter a Carb starting to move up here a little bit, trying to get in here and get offensive against Team Shake It Off. Asper into that full fear. He's going to go ahead and get dispelled off of that and be just fine. No, excuse me, actually it wasn't a dispel. I'm not sure exactly what broke that. But Rosita Jones now taking a lot of damage over here still, and he's going to go ahead and have to try and get out of there. No, the Spirit Link comes down, and they're going to stay aggressive as long as possible, just trying to make something happen against Asper here, who is actually running around as a burr at the moment, so that's fairly entertaining. But he's going to get over here out of line of sight and start healing himself up a little bit.
And that Poly is going to fade onto Floria, which is going to help him heal up Asper, but they are a little separated, so we do see actually a healing touch come out of Asper also, doing everything he can to help his Holy Paladin out. But you can see they're adopting a very defensive posture at this point, kind of waiting for the timers to come back up. Wings is back up on Floria already, so that means that he'll be able to pump out some massive heals. So we do see Rosita Jones, was playing a little offensive there, but deciding to come back a bit. But Chanimals just sitting right in their face, casting all those dots. But even Chanimals is afraid to push in behind those pillars.
Yeah, definitely. Majiden now getting caught out over here. He did get feared off to the side.
Oh, with
now
a deep
with
on
the
the Floria,
too.
With a poly followed up, too, then that is going to force a block. That was a great job by Rosita Jones. Asper was a little bit out of position right there, I do believe, and wasn't able to follow up the CC onto Rosita, which ended up getting that block out of Majiden.
Yep.
But we do see a push in from Asper right now. Looks like no timers yet on him, but we do see the beam going out onto Gorecki, too.
Yep, they're still trying to put a little bit of damage into Asper. I think that their strategy seems to primarily be hit Asper a bunch and then swap to Majiden really fast. They do actually get a polymorph onto Majiden, which gets dispelled right away into another small poly into a Frostjaw, which is going to keep him from being able to do too much damage and allow them to push out here a little bit more and sink a little bit more damage into Asper. Now Majiden getting caught into a Fear. That will also break. Another Fear comes out. Majiden, I'm actually just been watching him for the past couple of minutes here, and he just is constantly getting caught by CCs, not able to put out nearly the damage he wants to do, and there's that swap going over onto Majiden, dipping him down to 45% health. He might be in a lot of trouble here as Chanimal is moving around trying to just keep that damage going. The Save by the Light will proc. Floria having to use his wings and his execution sentence. Gets caught into a Fear though. Majiden may not be out of the woods just yet as those constant Fears keep coming out onto Floria. He is going to go ahead and use his Frost Orb and try to turn around and force Team Isbutter Carb out of here, but they are just relentless right now. The constant pressure coming out. The Polymorph trying to come out from Rosita Jones doesn't look like he was able to land it on anybody. There it goes. Full Polymorph onto Floria. So now Majiden might be in a little bit of trouble, but no, the Fear's coming out, and Floria is going to get broken out of that Polymorph, and it looks like Team Shake It Off is going to be able to recover from this offensive push from Isbutter Carb.
Yeah, and you can see that they had a complete swap of where Gorecki was. Gorecki really needed to help his team stay offensive right there. I thought they were going to score a kill with that, but it was awful close. Rosita Jones blinking in, got the deep off, trying to get the poly. There we go. Now he gets the poly off. There we go. Second block out of Majiden is looking great for Isbutter Carb right now. We do have timers up from both Rosita and Chanimal right there. All those offensive cooldowns. And it looks like Asper did use Celestial Alignment during that last push and wasn't able to score anything onto it. Of course, Saved by the Light procking onto Majiden. We do see an Aura Mastery coming out too from Floria. He really needs to get those heals out because Majiden doesn't have any blocks available.
Yeah, definitely. There are still really the only defensive cooldowns available for him is going to be Wings in just a couple of seconds for Floria. But if he's CC'd, he can't do anything with it. Of course, he does have his Trinket available, so getting that CC chain will be a little bit more difficult. And now they're trying to turn around some damage onto Rosita Jones here. Gorecki caught in that Root Beam. He's not going to be able to heal for a little while. This could put Rosita Jones in a little bit of trouble here. He's dipping super low, actually trying to move over with his healer there. Gorecki now in that Deep Freeze. He does have his Trinket, but he's just going to go ahead and sit through this because he's decided, you know what, Rosita Jones, you're totally fine. Rosita does have 2 Ice Blocks still available, so it's okay for Gorecki to hold on to his cooldowns.
It's a full poly on Gorecki, though, right now. Rosita having to block right there. That was a great job of Majiden playing very offensive because he does have full life at this point, but he did get his snap back up. That's what happened. Yep. So he does have his snap up. That's why he was playing offensive at that point.
Yep, both mages now with actually both used their cold snaps at almost the same exact time. So they both have their ice blocks available. Rosita Jones gets super low there for just a second as he's getting out of line of sight over here, trying to get some heals from Gorecki. Gorecki caught in that deep freeze. Rosita Jones could be in some trouble here. There's a Shadow Fury coming out onto Majiden just to try to slow down the damage a little bit. Majiden now in some trouble. Saved by the Light is proccing. He's going to have to try and get out of there. A big heal lands on him from that execution sentence as Floria gets put into that full Fear. Do they have any follow-up CC for him? No. He's going to go ahead and pop his wings. There's a very short Fear coming out, but he's still going to be able to heal up his team as Asper is taking quite a bit of damage as well in the middle of all this damage. Now the Frostjaw onto Floria. They're going to try and turn back around onto Majiden. It looks like, no, they got a couple of Fears onto him. They're just sort of splitting their pressure right now between Majiden and Asper, and they are actually able to, as a result of that, pull out a block from Majiden.
Deep poly onto Floria made Majiden block right there, jump off and block. We have a Shadow Fury onto Asper too, so he knows that he wants to go offensive, but Celestial Alignment is back up, and we'll see if Asper can force something. That's what led to the kill in the last matchup, as Asper is playing still pretty offensive, choosing to dump into Chanimals, as we even see the Denounce coming out onto him also.
Yeah, definitely, and I like that sort of swapping it up a little bit from Faloria, actually taking a second to put out a couple denounces, because now Chanimal looks like he might be in some trouble. To 30% health, he's actually using the water in the center of the arena to get himself a little bit of line of sight, and a big heal comes in from Gorecki. It's going to get Chanimal just before he gets put into that Cyclone. Great timing on that to be able to top him back off and prevent that offensive Cyclone. But Rosita Jones, super low, does end up ice blocking. He will not have his Cold Snap available for another minute. Does get a big heal in the middle of that too. But having to use that ice block means that now he is once again on equal footing with Majidin.
I don't know, that ice block, it really wasn't at an opportune moment because of how big that heal was coming on to him. Almost, if he would have hesitated for a second, he may have lived through that, and that heal would have saved him and not caused him the block. Rosita Jones is going to have to play a little bit more defensive at this point. Did get the deep off, but trying to follow with a poly. We have a Frost Draw. Oh, it looks like he is going to step back and play a little bit defensive for Gorecki. That was smart. Great job by Rosita Jones.
Yeah, definitely. He will have his Cold Snap available once again in about 25 seconds, but it's only 30 seconds on Majidin's Cold Snap. So really, these guys are evenly matched in terms of defensive cooldowns at the moment. Rosita Jones taking some big hits there from the Ice Novas as they come down. Gorecki is caught in that Root Beam. Rosita Jones could be in a lot of trouble here. Still 10 seconds on his Ice Block. The Spirit Link comes down just before that Cyclone onto Gorecki. Rosita Jones not out of the woods yet, but 3 seconds remaining on his Cold Snap if he needs it, and now his Cold Snap will be available, and he will be able to use his Ice Block if he needs it. So now they're going to turn it around onto Majidin, whose Cold Snap has just become available. He's already gone ahead and used it. Actually, Rosita not using his yet, as the healing comes in onto Majidin from Faloria. Faloria caught into that fear for just a second, but they did manage to pull the Avenging Wrath out of Faloria. So actually a fairly even trade overall. They got a Spirit Link and a Cold Snap out of Rosita Jones, but they also got the Cold Snap out of Majidin and a couple of big cooldowns from Faloria as well.
Yeah, and with Majidin right now, Saved by the Light is down on him. So we do see the deep end poly onto Faloria with Majidin, there we go, having to block right there. But Chanimal's getting extremely low by himself because Gorecki is in that poly with a Spirit Link immediately after too, just as the beam was coming down on him. That was impeccable timing by Gorecki there. I really like that he identified that he could push up due to the waterfall being down. Aura Mastery coming out on Faloria because he knows he has to get Majidin's life back up since there isn't any more blocks available. Of course, Rosita still held on to his, but look at this, the swap onto Asper as he is running away, forces the bubble also, so this is Butter or Carb looking pretty good at this point.
Yeah, definitely. There is still the Trinket remaining for Faloria, and the Execution Sentence and Avenging Wrath will both be available here very, very shortly, but Majidin now caught into this Shadow Fury out here, stuck kind of out in the middle, could be in a lot of trouble here. He's actually tried to use his Icy Veins to do a little bit of damage, but now he's going to have to sit back over here and be super defensive, and that's going to limit a lot of the pressure he's able to put out with that. Is Butter a Carb looking in great shape right now. All three of their trinkets will be available in the next 20 seconds as well. So Rosita Jones stuck out over here for just a second, just trying to stay offensive. He knows he still has his Ice Block available. Chanimal does get caught into that Polymorph, or excuse me, into that Cyclone, and Gorecki caught in the Root Beam once again as well. So Rosita Jones gonna go ahead and pull back. He doesn't want to use his Ice Block, but he has to.
Yeah, that's unfortunate right there for the team of Is Butter a Carb. Rosita Jones at full health yet again from those huge Shaman heals, but it looks like Shake It Off is playing a little bit defensive, and 17 seconds on Celestial Alignment, so we're going to expect a lot of bursts coming out of Asper really soon right now with the bubble down for Faloria, but he still has his Trinket.
Yep, and he has his Avenging Wrath as well, and he will have his Execution Sentence available momentarily. No, excuse me, actually used his Avenging Wrath right now, just trying to... I kind of felt like maybe that was a little bit early on that usage, as his team doesn't looking like they're in too much danger at the moment, but he does have it active for any potential healing that he has to do right now. Majidin caught into a CC there very shortly, actually getting a few Polymorphs on him. Chanimal seeming to take a little bit of damage, but Gorecki is able to keep him alive through all of that, and this match is coming to a conclusion very, very soon, I feel, as both of these teams are just playing so aggressively. Rosita Jones getting so low, down to 50% health, but does manage to just barely get out of line of sight and get that heal from Gorecki before that Deep Freeze came out, but it may not be enough. 11% health, the Spirit Link comes down, and that's going to get all three of them back up to about 60% health, just barely in the nick of time, and now they're trying to turn it around onto Asper. He has to use the the Bark Skin on himself. He's got to get out of there. He's running away, trying to get back over here to his healer. He does manage to get back out of line of sight again and get himself top back off, but great job by Is Butter a Carb forcing Shake It Off to go and play on the defensive yet again and keep them from actually being able to push in and get a kill.
Yeah, with Chanimals and Rosita Jones both using offensive cooldowns at that moment, it really set them, it set Shake It Off on the back foot, having to run away. Majidin taking a bunch of damage right now, however, not low enough to make Saved by the Light proc, but it looks like Floria taking a little bit of damage too from those dispels over and over and not healing himself up quite yet. Majidin down to about half right there. And it's great to see Majidin constantly dispelling off of those Curse of Agonies, because that's such a huge difference in damage.
Yeah, definitely. The ability to constantly keep that going is really helping his team quite a bit in this match. Rosita Jones now taking a bit of damage. Chanimal caught into that polymorph. That's going to break. He's going to be caught right back into another one. Just Shake It Off doing everything they can to keep Is Butter a Carb from getting offensive right now, as they want to wait as long as possible for their offensive cooldowns to come back up again. Rosita Jones might be in a little bit of trouble here. He's going to go ahead and use Blazing Speed, get over here out of line of sight. He does not want to have to use his Ice Block prematurely. He wants to get Majidin's Ice Block out first so that then they can push back in on him and try to score a kill.
Rosita Jones looking to push offensively, but this team is playing so defensively behind this pillar, constantly just retreating away. Chanimal's doing a great job of LOSing a lot of their damage, but still playing a little bit offensive position. As you see, Floria is way off in the corner, and we see a little bit of swap. Majidin taking a bunch of damage right now, down to half. They're locked on his poly, it looks like, right there, and having to block too. Again, this is a great onslaught by Is Butter Carb, but look at Asper also taking a bunch of damage, down to about half, tossing a Cyclone out onto Chanimal because he did have that Demon Soul active. Yeah,
Floria actually got a little bit of a drink in there for a second, but it maybe didn't work out for them as their team is so low. Rosita Jones getting super low here himself. He's going to go ahead and just sit through this Ice Block. Nope, there it is. The Ice Block comes out. He does not... every time Majidin uses Ice Block, immediately Rosita Jones has to use his, but Floria now has his entire team fairly low on health, and we're starting to see that power of the Enhancement Shaman, or excuse me, the Resto Shaman, as they're able to just put out a ton of healing this late. Rosita Jones in trouble, though, down to 16% health there for just a second, does get out of line of sight with Gorecki over here, able to toss a couple of heals, but we're now 50% into dampening. Even the Resto Shaman healing this late isn't going to do super much. Floria having to use his Avenging Wrath, trying his best to keep his entire team alive. This match is just, it's crazy back and forth constantly, and I cannot predict a winner at this point. It could be either team. The triple Shadow Fury comes out, and now Is Butter a Carb moving in here. The Comet Storm comes down. Majidin taking lots of damage. Asper taking a lot of damage. He's trying to get a Cyclone out, but he gets locked on it. He will not even be able to heal himself for just a second. Asper now in a lot of trouble here. Floria into that heal, and
Majidin goes down, and immediately Asper leaves. He was going to die too.
Yeah.
That was a great match. I think that the positioning of both teams was just impeccable. I saw a lot of plays where it looked like both Majidin and Asper wanted to go on Chanimal, and Chanimals was able to drop down just out of line of sight. Didn't even have to run very far away, knowing he also had his port back onto Gorecki. There's a lot of scary moments during that game. One of the things we saw a lot was Rosita Jones kind of out in the middle, wanting to continue the pressure to make sure the team couldn't run away too much, and almost every single time he did that, he lost a block, like every single time.
Yep.
So it was great seeing that Shake It Off, even when you can notice how they'll all run away at the same time, they'll all retreat, but then even during that, they identify that, hey, every time we do this, Rosita is chasing us away and trying to get like that one more cooldown. They're trying to work that one more cooldown out of us, and they turn it around on him every time, and they got a block out of it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That was great.
And one key moment that I started to mention there, but got distracted by how much damage these guys were doing, is that there was a point that Floria was completely tapped on mana. He had like 2% mana remaining. He managed to get down out of line of sight and start drinking, but as soon as he went down there, Rosita Jones recognized that he was there, and he moved over and immediately got a deep freeze onto him. And when that deep freeze went out, he was able to then follow it up with a polymorph, and that was what forced the ice block and the bubble out of Floria at that point. And Asper actually had to start running around in bear form too. So it was a great chance to actually get some mana back and get back into the game, but unfortunately just did not work out for them, and they were able to, Team Is Butter a Carb was actually able to get the win there. So we're going to be on Tolvaron Arena. That's Shake It Off's choice, is Tolvaron Arena. Much, much larger map. So we'll see how these teams are able to face off in that situation. And in terms of composition, it looks like we're going with basically the same thing again. We're going to have Affliction Warlock, Frost Mage, Resto Shaman for Is Butter a Carb, and Shake It Off is going to be doing that Balanced Druid, Holy Paladin, Frost Mage composition that they've honestly been doing very, very well with.
They really have. I mean, both teams, there's been amazing plays on both sides of all of these matches so far. So I'm glad to see such high-level play coming into this round of 4. Both teams doing a great job. Love the positioning. Shake It Off doing a great job of retreating when they know they need to. I love that they're tossing the cooldowns back and forth, forcing a block out of both mages. And it seems like the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth very quickly with who has the cold snaps and the blocks available.
Yeah, definitely. And I do kind of wonder, as this game is about to start, I do kind of wonder moving forward if eventually we'll see Team Shake It Off actually switch over to using a Shadow Priest, because they do have that, it's called God Comp, available to them if they want to do that. But that will have to be in a future match, as this match is already underway. We see Rosita Jones out here in the open, just trying to put some damage into basically anyone that he can. Just basically, I think his plan at the moment is to get some icicles up, but no, he actually drops the Comet Storm onto Asper, trying to punish him for being so far out in the open, and maybe trying to force a couple of cooldowns without actually having to use some offensive cooldowns himself.
Well, we see already the empowered dots coming out of Channel because he did hit his cooldowns really early. But look at that, the root beam onto Gorecki. They were going to try to give him right from the start as he's down to half, still not out of there. Wow, having to link also. But it looks like the trinket and the link were used at that moment. Still has Ascendance available for him. Seems to be, he might not be playing double link. We'll check in just a second if he has.
I think he actually had to use both Spirit Links there. He is playing Echo of the Elements, and I think he actually had to use both of them. I was wondering, because it seemed like that Spirit Link stayed up for a long time. I think he actually had to use both of them there. That was a lot of damage coming out of him. Of course, it was because Chanimal was kind of stuck out of position and wasn't able to get into it, but now Rosita Jones may be in some trouble. Gonna go ahead and get over here out of line of sight. And now is Butter a Carb actually looking like in a really scary position right now. They did manage to survive through the Celestial Alignment from Asper, but only just, and they had to use so many cooldowns to be able to do it.
As Rosita Jones is going to dump a little bit of damage into Majidin at this point. We had a pet kill. Majidin's Water Elemental is dead at this point. Asper is using those roots to break it on cooldown almost exclusively just so he can get the Star Surge procs yet again, as we do see the root beam yet again as Rosita Jones knows what's coming after that and blinks back to the safety of his Shaman as Majidin gets feared out into the middle. That's really bad positioning for him and forces a block based on that because Feloria was so far away. Excellent fear pathing from Chanimals at that on that fear and ultimately force a block. That was great.
Yeah, definitely, and that's really what Shake It Off is going to want to try to do in this situation. Excuse me, what is Butter Carb is going to want to try to do this situation. They know those root beams are coming, and since this map is so large, what they want to try to do is sort of abuse the offensive nature of players like Majidin and Asper and say, okay, you're going to try and root beam us, so we're going to make it so that when that happens, immediately we'll get into a position that you have to move forward if you want to capitalize on this offensive pressure, and then they can try to turn it back around on them a little bit. So it was great to see that play coming out of them there just a second ago. Now, of course, though, they're just sort of hanging over by this pillar here and trying to put out as much damage as they can. Now we have Majidin actually blinking in, trying to get offensive here. He did look like he was going for the deep freeze onto Gorecki, but was not able to land it. Either that or it broke immediately. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Majidin now caught out here in the open a little bit, and he's going to want to try and get away, get back over to the relative safety of his healer. Getting caught in a freeze there for just a second, but there he goes. Now he's going to blink over here behind this pillar and be completely fine.
Yeah, and as we see them do this over and over as they try to retreat, they're actually going to catch him with a deep, having the bark skin there also, and using the Stampede Roar to get back to his healer. That was... I like that strategy choice. I didn't pay off too completely, but you know that they're gonna try to retreat. They do it over and over and over during these matchup against this team. So trying to punish that at that point was kind of a good idea. Asper was the last one available as a target. So we see Majidin blinking in. We've got some timers coming out of Majidin right here. We might see some timers from Asper also. It looks like they knew they may have been coming, so they feared him away, followed by the fear on Majidin. And Asper's gonna hold it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. So Gorecki now does have his Spirit Link totem available, his first of those that get available once again. So they're going to be able to be a little bit more aggressive from this point, I believe. He does obviously still have his trinket available and his stone form as well, should he decide to use that to purge any sort of CCs. But Majidin now having to get over here out of line of sight, which is not what he wants to do while Icy Veins is active. He wants to be able to stay forward and put out as much pressure as possible. But is Butter a Carb just doing a great job of punishing every single offensive push that Shake It Off does in this matchup.
And there we go, Celestial Alignment coming out of Asper right now. Big cooldowns, lots of damage coming out of Channel with the stun on top of it. A Fear being tossed out onto Asper, trying to stop damage, but it gets cleansed immediately, as looks like the second Fear is going to stick, and the third. That stopped a little bit of the damage. That was pretty good. Fear coming out again as Floria does get deep, followed by the Sheep, but he was able to heal up Asper to full. So that CC chain not paying off too much. Asper still taking a lot of damage from those dots, though, with the Haunt on top.
Absolutely. So Shake It Off actually kind of trying to play a little bit defensive at the moment. They kind of have to because Is Butter a Carb has been punishing them so much, like we said. But Majidin now moving out a little bit, actually takes a big chunk of damage there. Fortunately, does get that execution sentence on him right away to be able to heal him back up. Now caught in the polymorph out in the middle of open. That's going to get cleansed off of him. No, excuse me. I believe he actually... No, it was a cleanse. And Asper now taking the damage at the moment as well. They're just doing so much every single time these guys push out. It's just instant damage. Now Asper actually coming over here and having to heal himself up way away from his healer because Floria has just been caught in fears for so long.
Yeah, Floria's out in the middle of nowhere, having to using the on-use trinket to try to get some instant heals onto Majidin because Majidin was taking so much damage during that entirely full row of dots right there, including Haunt on top of it, as a Save by the Light proc again at a very, very high health value. So those were great heals from Floria, but just not enough to keep him out of that range. We do have a stun onto Goreki right now, who's down to half, probably going to have to link out of this. Oh, looks like he's going to try to save without it, but he still has one available. Great play by Goreki. I was really expecting a link blown there.
Absolutely. So they've been able to force a ton of cooldowns out of Shake It Off at this point as well. Both the bubble and the trinket came out of Floria there very recently. He will have his wings back up again in about 50 seconds, which might allow them to get a little bit more aggressive again. But really, Is Butter a Carb has been playing this so well. Like you were saying, able to avoid using that link just a second ago. And both ice blocks available
Root Beam
for Rosita
followed
Jones
by a
still.
Cyclone right here. Chanimal's kind of in trouble as we see the Icy Veins out on Majidin. No cooldowns for Asper, though. They pushed in a little bit too early for that. The Deep following it. Also, Asper having to run away from his healer behind the pillar at 70k. They are going to freeze Floria and get a Fear on him. Rosita Jones is coming out, but he can't get over there in time. Oh, but Floria feared way away. What a CC chain right there in Floria. Looks like Asper had to make the decision. He had to pick which pillar to go to, chose the far pillar, and wasn't able to make it there in time and back to his healer.
Yeah, definitely. So that puts now Is Butter a Carb up 2-1
Wow.
against Shake It Off, and that was Shake It Off's map pick as well. So this does mean that Shake It Off will get another opportunity to pick the map, but to come back from losing the first match, get 2 wins in a row, I think Is Butter a Carb is looking extremely strong now at this point. That was a very, very tense moment there at the end because Chanimal was so low on health, but they were able to recognize that, okay, Asper's getting a little bit too aggressive right now. We have the opportunity in this situation to say, let's go ahead and keep people alive for just a second. We know that Chanimals is going to be able to live through this. They dropped the Spirit Link. He did still have another Spirit Link available at that point if they needed it, and that allowed them to turn it right back. I don't think they were expecting him to have 2 Spirit Links, basically, and that allowed them to get a lot more aggressive than maybe they were expecting, and as a result, Asper paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a scary chain because normally you start with the Root Beam and you go off of it, but they were Root Beam and then the Deep landed right after, and I saw the CC setup, like they had it in their minds what they wanted to do, but then Team Is Butter a Carb just turned it around onto him. It was great play by both teams. I mean, they're awesome players, all of these players. Goreki doing a phenomenal job on Resto Shaman.
Yeah, definitely.
There was that one moment when I was like, he's gonna link, he's gonna link,
Yeah.
he's gonna link, and he never did.
Yep.
And it was great. And saving that, because the enemy team is looking for those opportunities when both links aren't available. So great plays.
Absolutely. That's really the mark of a really, really top-tier Restoration Shaman, I think, is being able to recognize those situations of, I got this, it's fine, I'll just wait a second, we'll come out of this, I'll get a big heal with that Deep Healing Mastery, and we'll be totally fine out of that. And just having faith in your teammates to be able to play defensively for just a second and survive. So that was an absolutely amazing match. We're going to be very, very shortly here finding out what map we'll be playing on next.
Because it's 2-1. I mean, 2-1 at this point. You know, it's kind of scary for Shake It Off. I I don't think they're going to swap this comp. This is a comp that they're extremely confident with. I know that GCD TV talked to the players a bit and got a little bit of info, and they do have God comp available, but it sounds like they're not as confident with God comp as this setup.
Yeah, definitely, and I don't really blame them. Like, this is the comp that they've done super well in tournaments with. They haven't necessarily played their God comp as much. So it looks like they are going to be sticking with the same compositions on both teams, and the map choice will be Blade's Edge Arena, which personally I think is actually a great choice, considering that they do have that balanced druid on their team. It will allow them to sort of force Isbutter or Carb to come up to them a little bit and then push people down, especially if they can get a Typhoon off onto the healer and then finish somebody else up who's on the top. Maybe even a root beam down below or something like that. There's lots of ways that you can use that knockback ability. Of course, there is the Warlock available for Isbutter or Carb, who will also be able to get a knockback. So it's going to be an interesting match, basically, is where I'm going with this. I'm really curious to see what these people do.
There's a lot of different options that they have. You know, of course, Chinimals wasn't really the target too often, mostly when he put himself in a bad position. So I don't think his portal is going to play that much, except for, you know, surprise, I'm going to CC your paladin out of nowhere kind of thing. But, looks like the match is already ready. Both these teams, you can tell when a team is extremely confident. They don't have to worry too much about the strats because they know how to play against these teams. They've played against them so often that they want to just get right back into the match.
Absolutely. So we will be getting into this match right now, actually. Pulling up here, we can see Shake It Off on the left, down 1-2 against Team Isbutter a Carb. This is Shake It Off's map choice. We're going to have to see if they have anything particular in mind on Blade's Edge. I'm always curious when teams pick Blade's Edge, just because it's a map that it's so much different from the other maps.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you can play it. I was talking a little bit earlier about how you can be up on the bridge and use knockbacks, but we've actually seen teams playing it, I like to call it the troll strategy, because you're living underneath the bridge the entire time, and you just stay down below there. There's lots of line of sight blockers down there, and if you can force your opponents to come to you down beneath the bridge, you actually can really punish them for it. So we'll have to see what they do here.
And no changes spec-wise, it looks. The one thing to note is Gorecki is playing Glyph of Purify Spirit, so he does have that double Dispel available, which is extremely useful in the situation when you're going to see like a fist into a poly, for example, and he's able to keep his team clean of debuffs.
Yeah, definitely. So we now see them all sort of hanging out here on top of the bridge. Looks like that's going to be the plan for the moment. Majidin and Rosita Jones actually having sort of a mage hug there for just a second. Now moving in over here onto Asper. Feloria was caught in that deep freeze, and they do manage to get the Save by the Light proc onto Asper, and then that's going to force out the
block
both
from
the wings.
Rosita, though. The great offensive push from Asper with that Celestial Alignment offensive cooldown used with all those Star Surges coming out. So that, I think that was a great trade-off at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams being just super aggressive right here at the start, and they have been just constant aggression in all of these matches. It's kind of amazing that they've been lasting as long as they have. But Rosita Jones now moving over here. He's going to get the deep freeze onto Feloria. Can they follow it up with the polymorph? Yes, in fact they will. Asper's going to jump down below the bridge, trying to get himself over here out of line of sight to be able to heal himself back up. But now Majidin might be in some trouble here. He's trying to get a polymorph off. It gets interrupted by that Shadow Fury, and Majidin might be able to force a block here, but no, Feloria gets a Holy Light off.
He gets feared also. That's not good. Feloria in that half fear at that point, as Saved by the Light procs right there, but Majidin's looking okay, up to 50%, as Aura Mastery is used in that exchange also. A poly on to Majidin. Looks like they're going to double poly him at that point. I think they were expecting, oh, there we go. It was because of the root beam. They were expecting the onslaught, the offensive onslaught at that point. So that was a smart play.
Yeah, definitely. Feloria did manage to get, just before that fear before there, he did manage to get a Holy Light off. It was just barely mistimed on that fear, which allowed Majidin to save his block there, I think. But Asper now, once again, having to jump down below the bridge to heal himself back up, and Majidin in some trouble here. He's going to go ahead and block as soon as that fear lands on Feloria, knowing that, okay, I should use this early. I'm going to have to use it at some point, and seconds can matter in these situations. I want to get those cooldowns started so that I can have it available again sooner.
Asper is by himself in the middle of the bridge, as you can see that they switched immediately. The Cyclone goes out. I don't think it lands on anyone, but Gorecki is in a full poly at this point, as Chanimal is going to be tossing out those fears. Gets rooted to try to get more Star Surge procs for Asper, as another fear lands on Gorecki. Chanimal's taken a little bit of damage. I know that we said that he probably wouldn't be the target, but it looks like they're off putting a little damage. And both Gorecki and Chanimals caught in that beam, but again, a nice job switching it back around with a block by Majidin and a block by Rosita Jones. This is the kind of pacing we've seen in previous matches.
Yeah, definitely. Both mages have now used both of their ice blocks. However, Rosita Jones' Cold Snap will be up very, very soon here. I almost wonder if he actually used his Cold Snap as a heal early on, because I don't remember seeing him ice block before. If he did, it must have been an offensive one. But anyway, they're now moving back in here, and I feel like Is Butter a Carb is actually doing a great job just staying super offensive this entire time and forcing cooldowns out. They do have a few more cooldowns about to come up for Shake It Off for Faloria. He is now caught into that full fear. They're going to go after Asper yet again. Rosita Jones moving in here, getting super aggressive, forcing the Bark Skin out of Asper. Majidin now starting to dip a little bit as well. Majidin does not have an ice block available for 2 minutes, so any pressure they can put into him is super, super scary at this point. They're going to go ahead and sheep him, put him in that polymorph for just a second, and try to put some more damage back into Asper.
Yeah, Asper getting feared out into the middle a bit, choosing to try to channel as many Cyclones as he can. Faked a couple times, it was good. There we go, now we have the Root Beam. Looks like they are going to stun Chanimals, and it looks like that is going to be pressure onto Rosita Jones, who knows it's coming and is able to blink away. But look at that, Majidin right on top of him, needs to... Oh, he actually doesn't need to block because he's saved by the Link, but look at Gorecki's health getting really low. Looks like they're choosing to go into Rosita. Timers come out from both the offensive members of Is Butter a Carb, which brings Asper down to half. Faloria sitting on that back pillar gets Shadow Fury too. Asper down to half though. Looks like he's going to be able to run away, but the fear did follow up from that Shadow Fury, so that was a great job by Chanimals. Unfortunately, they didn't get any cooldowns out of that.
Yeah, definitely. There is the Avenging Wrath out of Faloria, but it's not that long of a cooldown, so it's not going to be too big of a deal for them. Majidin now into that Frostjaw and Faloria into the Deep Freeze. Are they going to be able to follow up on that with a polymorph? Yes, indeed they are. So Faloria now caught into that. He's going to have to get broken out of that now. Asper, with that Barkskin active and the Execution Sentence on him, is going to heal him back up just fine. And now Shake It Off looks like they're trying to get offensive here again. Asper's going to get feared though. It looked like he was trying to move in for that Root Beam on Gorecki, but that fear just completely stopped that entirely. And now Team Shake It Off once again looking like they're just kind of losing control of this match entirely. They're not really able to keep up the pressure that they want to be able to keep going.
Yeah, you can see Rosita just trying to build up a bunch of icicles for a burst. Blinking in for the deep gets knocked off, however, so there wasn't any follow-up CC off of that deep. Now look at this, Asper jumping off. Oh, the entire team is jumping off. Rosita may have put himself in a bad position as we do see the Root Beam coming onto Gorecki. Rosita just has to run at this point, but we see a blink. They are going to follow Rosita all the way to the edge. A deep coming onto Gorecki, followed by that Cyclone 2. Amazing CC chain coming out of, but look at Rosita just running away and having to use that block. He doesn't have a Cold Snap available for another minute, so the next offensive CC chain followed by damage from Shake It Off could spell defeat for Rosita Jones.
Yeah, he held onto that block for so long, and I thought for a second he was going to be able to come out of that and still have his block available, but they were able to actually force it out of him. So now they're going to have to be super careful as this continues. Of course, Majidin dipped pretty low there for just a second, which forced the Avenging Wrath Execution Sentence out of Faloria. He's just constantly been having to use those this entire match, which is totally fine because he does still have his bubble and his trinket available should he need to break any CC effects. Gorecki now caught into a Frostjaw, and Rosita Jones looking like, oh no, actually he's going to be getting into that Cyclone there for a second. Shake It Off looking like they're maybe just even trying to knock Is Butter a Carb off kilter a little bit here and make them have to sort of...
I think it's working. I mean, that whole last chase of Rosita Jones was due to Rosita wanting to blink in and get that Deep Freeze, but with an excellent knockoff, it completely stopped it and actually forced the block out of it, so they turned the tables on them. It was really smart.
Yeah, definitely, and it's extremely important for them to be able to do that, as we are 1-2. If Is Butter a Carb wins this, they do win the series and will move on. So Shake It Off has to win this match right now if they want to have any chance of continuing to compete in today's qualifiers. Chanimal actually using his Dark Soul there, but not really able to get any real dots up off of that. He did manage to put a bunch of damage into Asper, but both Majidin and Faloria are completely clean at the moment. So not looking like he really got too much use out of that. He does still have his other Dark Soul available trouble. So if they decide to be offensive, he will have that. Majidin now caught into that Frostjaw for just a second there. Honestly, it looks like both teams are not really sure. They're just sort of waiting for an opportunity to move in and get offensive, and this may be what it is right now. As we're taking a lot of damage, Faloria into that deep freeze, into that polymorph as well. Faloria does have 2 CC breaks available. He's not choosing not to use them. The Save by the Light will proc on Asper, and then there's once again the Avenging Wrath execution sentence onto Asper. It's going to heal him back up, and they're going to try to turn it back around on a Channel. Channel in that Fist of Justice. He jumped down. He's out of line of sight from his healer. Could be in trouble, and down he goes.
Oh, wow. Chanimals just gets so disconnected from his healer, just was put in a bad position, and that's all it takes. 104k Starfire from Asper. Huge damage coming out from this team.
Yeah. Yeah, there were 2 Ice Novas available for Majidin at that point too that were able to finish him off. It was just a lot of damage. I totally understand the thought of, oh crap, I'm taking a lot of damage and my healer is CC'd, I need to jump down. But it actually kind of backfired on him a little bit, because then as soon as Gorecki was out of that CC, he was not in line of sight to be able to heal him. I'm not sure that it would have played out any differently if he hadn't jumped out, because that was just a lot of damage. But still, like, great thought, at least great plan and strategy from Chanimals. Just too much damage for it to actually work with.
That was great plays by both. Like I said before, that excellent play by Asper, knocking Rosita Jones off, and then Rosita Jones had to just run away for a very long time at that point, and eventually got the block. So it kind of put them out of position. I thought that they had a great position before that moment, with Rosita Jones blinking up and trying for the CC. And that's what we were seeing over and over, like the blink, the deep, followed by a fear, maybe the Shadow Fury into the fear. But wow, what an exciting match.
Yeah, definitely. So that means we are now tied 2-2 in this best of 5 series. And this final match will be Butter a Carb's map choice, and it's going to be Tiger's Peak.
Yeah, they're getting right back into it. Both teams are very, very confident at this point, because they both have taken 2 rounds off of each other. And except for that last moment in that match, I think it was pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was sure for the first half of that last match that Butter a Carb was going to end up taking this 3-1, but Shake It Off was able to come back and get themselves that just great job capitalizing on Chanimal's position there and be able to get that kill. But so now here we are in the final match of this series. Whoever wins this series will be moving on to the finals of the North American Online Qualifiers Cup 1. And whoever doesn't, well, best of luck next time.
Yeah, and I mean, we will see both of these teams next time. Whoever loses this match, I'm sure we'll be seeing them a dominant force in the future cups. These are such amazing players on both teams.
Absolutely. So the gates are just now opening, and we're going to have to see how these players decide to duke it out on this map. This is a fairly, there isn't too much in terms of shenanigans that can happen on this map. It's a fairly straightforward map. You can, of course, go up on the platforms on the side and then jump down to try to break line of sight.
Already killed. That was a really, really fast pet kill onto Rosita Jones' Water Elemental, as he has to summon it yet again right from the start. We do see Icy Veins coming out from Majidin. Oh, and the Celestial Alignment. They're pushing in deep right now as Asper's blinking in. Did get the Root Beam out, though. Looks like there it goes. But Gorecki was able to get out of it, as Rosita Jones is also choosing to use his cooldowns also. We're seeing some fears. The deep onto Faloria. So this is a lot of damage back and forth. Majidin's trying to get back onto his target, as it looks like the 2 casters from Team Shape It Off are kind of split at this point, not on the same target. They didn't seem to get too much out of their cooldowns, except for that mage pet kill at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Now Majidin dipping down below 50% health. Doesn't look like he's in too much trouble at the moment. Faloria is able to keep him alive, no problem. So neither team really coming out ahead. In fact, no cooldowns were used, no defensive cooldowns were used in that first engagement, which is actually relatively rare, and it hasn't happened yet in this series. So both teams just, I guess, playing defensively, maybe a little bit scared. They know that there's a lot of pressure on this match, and they don't want to accidentally throw it in the first 30 seconds of the game. Okay,
so we see a poly onto Rosito, followed by a short, another poly and a short cyclone, with the damage onto Chanimals right now as he's getting so low, as Gorecki having to link right there because he was in that solar beam. Some great CC coming out, but a little bit too late. That was an amazing amount of burst damage just right onto Chanimals. Faloria in a poly, however, but there's not a lot of damage coming out quite yet from Butter a Carb.
Yeah, they're constantly CCing Chanimal on his Dark Soul right here. He has not been able to get up nearly as many dots as he would have liked. Both actually Major having to block.
Yeah, they forced it through those dots. Floria was just caught in that such a long CC chain that the rot damage just caught up with Major Dennis. Asper also taking a lot of damage too. So it looks like now Chanimals and Rosita are finally finding their mark right now, trying to switch it back and forth onto the two members of Shake It Off.
Yeah, but Chanimal taking a lot of damage. Gorecki was briefly caught into some CC there, and they were able to put a little bit of damage into Chanimal, but unfortunately they were not able to follow that up. There was a CC that came out, a polymorph that came out into Major Den, followed by this Fear just now. Is Butter Carb actually playing defensively at the moment, saying, okay, we'll just keep ourselves alive for another couple of seconds, and then we'll be able to push in and look for that good opportunity to push in and start getting super aggressive. Feloria's Avenging Wrath has just now fallen off. However, Major Den now moving in here. He's going to get polymorphed immediately off of that. Did drop the Comet Storm, and that polymorph's going to just sort of shut down that offensive pressure, and both him and Asper are now going to start moving back a little bit and maybe start focusing on Rosita Jones, who's caught himself a little bit out of position over here. He's actually completely out of position. He's going to try and get that polymorph off onto Feloria, which he was able to do, and now they want to go after Asper, but Asper being very, very smart, getting all the way over out of line of sight and not letting them actually follow up and capitalize on that CC chain.
I was surprised that they didn't switch it on to Asper. I know that Rosita Jones just blinked way far in, so he didn't have that opportunity to get back and help his team. As you can see the positioning of Shake It Off, they're back on their own pillar. Oh, lots of damage coming out of Rosita. Ooh.
That was super close. That was a lot of damage in a hurry. He went from like 80% to 20% inside the span of a global cooldown. Those are terrifying situations as a mage because, of course, Ice Block is on GCD, and sometimes you can just die without having to use it. Fortunately for Rosita, he did manage to get it off. He does get bashed on that. On his Icy Veins. He's going to immediately trinket that and try to keep up this pressure on Majiden. Majiden now sitting at 55% health. He's going to go ahead and blink back over here to join up with his healer and with Asper, and now try to turn this back around again. They're getting Cyclones out onto Rosita just to shut down the pressure he's trying to put out, and now maybe trying to put some more damage into him here.
Yeah, Rosita Jones still trying to stay offensive as he's going to actually run back to Gorecki, but you can see the positioning on this. It's really smart because Majiden is, they're trying to hit whoever's available, and when Chanimals and Rosita swap it back and forth, they can kind of stagger their defensive cooldowns at that point. We do see some CC coming out onto Majiden a little bit, but it doesn't seem like they're really making Shake It Off play very scared recently.
Yeah. Of course, as we say that now, Asper taking a lot of damage, having to use his Bark Skin. Feloria caught into a full polymorph.
Needing a link there, too. That's a lot. Because of the Celestial Alignment, Asper dumping a lot of damage into the enemy team as he is going to run away for a bit, knowing that he's going to take a little damage and is going to try to kill the pet. That was kind of smart, trying to pull the pet behind the pillar, but excellent pet micro by Chanimal.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like every single time these teams engage, they both sort of kind of get the crap beaten out of them for a second and then have to turn right back around again. Because it's just, like we said earlier, this is such an important match. Whoever wins this match wins this series and moves on to the finals. And they want to be able to qualify right now. They want to get that one spot at the Americas Regionals. GCD Feloria now into that full deep freeze. So are they going to get a follow-up sheep onto him? No, they were not able to get in there and get that sheep onto him. So that's going to diffuse their offensive pressure a little bit. But Majiden still having to get back over here, joining up with his healer. They are not able to force the ice block out of him, though. He still has both of his ice blocks available. I feel like Shake It Off is actually in a really, really good position right now as we're starting to get into dampening. We're at 4% dampening now. Rosita Jones into that Cyclone just temporarily, just trying to stop as much pressure as possible so they can turn it back around onto him. Now taking a bit of damage. He's going to have to blink back over here and join up with Gorecki, who's getting caught into the Root Beam. Rosita Jones might be in a little bit of trouble, but no, now they're turning it back around onto Asper yet again. Just constant back and forth pressure. As soon as one of them looks like they're starting to get a lead, the other team just turns it right back around.
And that's what they have to do, though, with the way these teams are playing, where they're playing very defensively most of the time. They know that when they do push offensive, that's their moment to kind of counter it. And not only does it consume the enemy team's cooldowns, but it can give yourselves a kill opportunity, as it looks like Majiden getting kind of low, actually having the block there, snapping right after.
Yep.
So he does have that block available, finally getting his pet back up. He had a dead pet for a little while, as it looks like Asper's dumping a little damage into Chanimals, or maybe the Warlock pet, actually. But the dot coverage isn't as great as I would like to see out of Chanimals, because normally he's the guy who just does tons and tons of Warlock damage.
Yeah, definitely. It is a lot harder since Warlords of Draenor to keep all of those dots up because you do have to spend soul shards to use Soul Swap. But on top of that, he's just been getting CC'd constantly. The polymorph onto Feloria. Asper might be in trouble here. He's having to hide behind this Tiger over here, just trying to stay alive. Now the full fear onto Feloria. Asper could be in a lot of trouble. He's going bear form, trying to get over to his healer as that fear is about to wear off. The fear does fall off, but Majidin turns right back around on Majidin. Majidin just gets annihilated, dies with an ice block still available, and that's what I was talking about before. That damage was so fast, he did not even have an opportunity to use his ice block.
I actually didn't catch that. I don't know if he was locked on Frost and wasn't able to, but like we were saying, every time that they go offensive, if they can switch it back on them, it's a great play, and that's what happened there. Asper really needed to pull back defensively. Rosita Jones really the initiator for the team. We saw the deep into the poly. Great job. Wow. That was such an exciting match, and for it to end on that note, they knew exactly the moment that they had to switch away from Asper, who was trying to play defensively, and just completely blew GCD Majidin up.
Yeah, entirely. So that does mean it's going to be 3-2 for Isbutter at Carb. Taking out, a lot of people were saying Shake It Off was probably the favorites to win this whole thing. They've been playing so well, but Isbutter at Carb just able to capitalize on a couple of little situations, and seriously, just crazy amounts of damage onto Majidin there. Being able to kill him through his ability to ice block, he was not able to actually even use that in time. Just so much damage in such a big hurry. That's it. Isbutter at Carb is going to be moving on to the finals and facing off against the winner of our next match, who we'll be finding out here very shortly. In fact, if we can take a look at the brackets really quick, we'll go ahead and show you guys exactly who they'll be facing off again. It's going to be Luminosity versus Hands Up in our next series.